Brother, you've probably spent a lot of time, if you're anything like me, looking up how to be more confident. And one of the things we hear is faking it until you make it. There's a problem with this though. You maybe look at someone like Leo in The Wolf of Wall Street, Brad Pitt in Fight Club, and you look at their external image, how they're very competent, they're controlled, they understand what they're doing, they're good at what they're doing. There's some courage involved in some ways, but the problem with when we say we're going to fake it till we make it, we just take the external appearance of that person and we forget the internal experience. So, what I mean by that is you look at Leo in The Wolf of Wall Street. Yes, he's very smooth, he's very suave, he knows always to say the right thing, but he's manipulative deep down. He's obviously medicating in a way with drugs and needing that to cope with his existence. And I think it's very easy for us to even look at people in our lives and we just see someone who outwardly is confident. And we forget kind of about the internal side of confidence, what it feels like inside. Maybe Leonardo DiCaprio in this movie, he feels dreadful inside because he's manipulating people, even though he puts on this external appearance of confidence. Maybe Brad Pitt is living more in alignment with values, so internally he might feel more aligned, but we take the external and forget the internal part of confidence. So that's what I'm going to explain to you in this video today. The first thing I want to say is I want you to try and forget everyone else. Rather than looking at people who are great at public speaking, for example, or amazing with women, you have to completely put your blinders on and have tunnel vision in your life to focus on where you currently are. Because it doesn't matter where other people are, because if we just take their external and forget the internal experience, then you're going to end up just copying and it's going to feel inauthentic. You're not going to enjoy a true feeling of confidence because it hasn't come from a grounded place. It hasn't come from within. You have just borrowed and taken someone's external appearance. And confidence also comes down a lot to the internal. How do we feel? How are we able to move into uncomfortable situations? So there's a metaphor that I like to use, and it's like we're climbing this mountain. The end goal is this state where we feel truly confident and we feel we're in the place we want to be in our life. And I think what was really important for me early on in my journey was realizing that I am climbing to somewhere. I'm not where I want to be right now. I don't feel great all the time. I'm not where I want to be. So I have this picture in my head of climbing this mountain and knowing that over time, doing the right things day in, day out, I'm going to get there. I'm going to get to the end of where I want to be. And I know realistically there's no end point to our journey. There's no finish point. There's no point where we can suddenly relax and chill out for the rest of time. But I like having this metaphor, and I still have this metaphor in my mind to reassure me that I'm on the right path by taking steps every day. And this metaphor might be useful to you as well if you're currently feeling like I'm very unconfident, I'm insecure, I'm not where I want to be. Having some faith, not like a religious faith, but just a belief, a strong belief, that things are going to improve if you take slow, steady actions. That is the thing that really helped me take the steps to move forward and develop a deeper level of confidence. Now you've got this idea, this belief that eventually you're making progress, things are going upwards overall, you then need to almost forget about this idea that you're climbing up this mountain and bring your focus just to the next step. So let's say you've got an area where you don't feel that confident. Let's say it's with dating. Maybe you've never had a relationship, or you haven't been dating for a while. And the thing you need to do in terms of developing confidence, feeling like you can do this, is breaking it down into very small steps. So I'm not going to tell you if you haven't dated anyone to go and do 100 cold approaches over a weekend. It's not the best approach to build confidence. You need to pick an action that is going to push you, but it's not going to completely overwhelm you to the point that you just want to run away from that and not take any action. So maybe that's something like you're going to just go and talk to people in public first. Maybe you're going to talk to a couple people in a local shop, in a cafe. Just carry on that conversation a bit longer. And then you can build up to maybe more courageous actions. over time, such as doing more cold approaches, going out to bars, whatever it is you want to do to build your confidence. And picking these actions, it's not listing what I've said or listing what someone else has said. It's something that's measurable for you, that is going to push you in that right direction to facing the fear you have related to, let's say, dating. There's always going to be some fear. Maybe it's, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve to date, I'm not ready to date yet, I need to do this before I can start dating. And all these traps that come up, if there's something we truly want in our lives, they tend to just delay it till later. It makes us feel better, giving a rational reason that makes sense. Maybe it sounds logical, but ultimately, if you play that out over a long enough time period, you're just going to delay taking the action. And it's only going to be once you take the action that you start to feel confident. So you need to forget this bigger mountain, the bigger picture. Focus on the next small step. Identify the action that you want to take, and move forward on that. And part of it, I'll get onto this a bit more later, but part of it is realizing that becoming confident is more taking the action than how you feel. The first time you're doing cold calls or the first time you're doing cold approaches, you shouldn't feel like comfortable inside. You haven't done this before. You should feel a level of nervousness. And I think a lot of us think that I need to get to a point where the fear, the discomfort has gone. And I told myself this for a long time as well. But really, this is just part of the process. Understanding that when we do something new, we're going to feel a level of nervousness. And that's completely natural. What can also help, this has helped me in the past, that I had it with dating where I struggled maybe to approach people, approach girls. And at the time, my coach, he gave me this kind of step down approach, as I like to call it, where, let's take another example. Let's say if you're doing sales, that the most courageous action is maybe going up in person into a shop, whatever you're selling, approaching someone in person, knocking on someone's door. That's probably the most courageous thing. It requires being seen on the highest level. But what you can do is you have another option that's still going to be courageous, but it's just not as taxing that day. Certain days you're just not going to feel that you have this capacity, but you can still make progress up this mountain. So rather than going, let's say, doing door-to-door sales, maybe you do cold calling. If you can't do cold calling, maybe you do LinkedIn messaging. If you can't do that, maybe you run some ads. There are still a lot of options that help us build confidence slowly, but also adjust to our internal experience. And of course, we don't want to step away too much from taking the action and be too controlled by what's going on in here. But also we have to accept that we're human. There's going to be days where if we're doing cold calling, for example, we don't want to do 100 cold calls. We just, on that day, we don't want to force it completely. But there's still a lot of things we can do that are meaningful. Even taking the example of going to the gym, rather than going and doing a 2-hour workout, can you do a 30-minute walk? It's a hell of a lot better than just laying in your bed eating sweets. So this approach really helps me continue to make progress over time. And I think it's that consistency that even if you weren't going to the gym and doing a 2-hour session every time, you're still going to get your 5k steps in, and that's better than where you were a few years ago. And I think that's what confidence is. It's understanding what's going on in our bodies, not being completely controlled by it, but also having some level of awareness of adaptability and realizing we're human. We can't always be forced to do what we want to do. But the people who become confident over a long time, they do have that consistency to keep going in some way towards the top of the mountain. They just have that consistency. And I think the biggest thing, as I've kind of touched on, it's action in spite of the internal feelings you have. Even if you're feeling very nervous, is there something courageous you can do? You don't maybe always need to do the hardest thing, because I speak to guys who maybe they push themselves too far. They're like, I need to keep doing cold approaches, even when it feels awful. I feel like I'm on the edge of having a panic attack. Of course, you need to adjust to your body in that situation. If you're feeling very stressed and it's just way too demanding for you, if you haven't done that thing before and it's way too demanding, the wise next step isn't just to continue acting. You do need to adjust, but you can use that step down approach to adjust the action you're taking, so you can still move towards this goal. So I'm just going to recap very quickly. So we want to forget about other people. We want to have tunnel vision and focus on our own lives. We want to have this vision of climbing to the top of the mountain, belief that by taking the small steps every day, we're moving from a place where we're unsatisfied to one where we feel a level of contentment, feeling like we're always on this upward trajectory, even though we're going to have bumps in the road. We bring our focus back to the day-to-day. What can I do to face the area I feel unconfident in? And also, where can I use this step-down approach to, if on a certain day I don't want to do the 2-hour gym session, maybe I do an hour on the bike or go for a walk or play football at the beach. Whatever it is, it's about adapting to ourselves, but still realizing that even if we don't feel amazing, if we feel a lot of fear, anxiety and nervousness, that's kind of normal if we're facing something new. So acting in spite of the internal experience. That's my perspective on confidence, and also why fake it till you make it doesn't often work, and the approach that has really helped me in my life. I hope that helped. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.